All right, so today we're going to go over a tutorial on how to correctly execute the L-sit. And today we have none other than Maria, who's going to do a demonstration for us on how to do an L-sit. So before I get into the technical aspects of this exercise, why don't we just take a quick look at an L-sit. Maria, if you could, please. 3, 2, 1. Thank you. All right, there you have it. That is your L-sit. Now, Maria may have made that look somewhat easy. Let's take a look at what's going on. We're going to focus on the full-blown L-sit initially, and then we'll give you some ideas on how you can scale it down. All right, so what's going on here? Well, Maria, in this particular instance, is using, some boxes. Don't go out yet, please, Maria. All right, so she's using some boxes. In theory, this could be done on a lot of different apparatuses, including a dip bar. It could be done on the floor, which is very safe, by the way, because if you slip up on the floor, quite frankly, you're not going far. The one thing I'm not sure that I'm a fan of is doing this with chairs. And the only reason is that chairs can, these are pretty heavy boxes, so they're not going to really slide much. But a chair, I'm a little iffy about the chair concept. So that being said, you can certainly do this right off the floor. Maria will demonstrate it using the boxes, and then we're going to go to the floor to show you what that looks like as well. Now, the advantage of doing it here on the box is that because you're elevated up, if you're not that strong, you can actually, Maria, put your feet back on the floor. Okay, just relax for a second so we can go into what you can actually do. Here's something you can actually do, and you'll find yourself probably doing this when you're first getting into the L-sit. And that is your legs probably won't sit in a perfect L. Rather, they're going to be lower than your hip initially. So here's what's going to probably end up looking like. So her feet are off the floor, but you can see how low they are. As the hip flexors tend to strengthen up, they'll start coming up, and she gets a better sense of balance. Stop. Okay, so as you get a better sense of balance, that's something else that you can do equally. But keep in mind, at least initially, when you first try to do the full-blown L-sit, this is a good way of doing it. You start with whatever height you can get your legs at, and then progressively, hopefully, we get you rotating back to the palms of your hand. That's where you want to have most of the weight sitting so that you can have that rotation and your feet will then come up. Okay, Mark. So we'll stop there. Now let's take a look at this L-sit on the floor. Okay, Mark? So an L-sit on the floor leaves zero room for error because you can't really keep your feet down. Here's what I want you to notice. Notice how her hands, her butt has actually gone past her hands. That's fine, stay like that. Yeah, much more difficult. So her butt is now past her hands, which really wasn't the case when she was elevated on the box. But that's okay. But that hand placement is important because you have to find where your center of balance is best located. The other thing with doing it here off the floor is that there's no room for air. You got to get it off. You have to do a legit L-sit when it's coming up off the floor. Okay. So this is the hardest version you're going to get of doing the L-sit. If you're at that level, that's where we want you to get to. So that's ideally where we'd like to see this execution happen. Okay, so a lot of people cannot do L-sits. How do we start getting into it? Let's take it back a step. This is the hardest version you're going to get is on the floor. So that's ideally how we want you executing this exercise. The next step, intermediate, will be using the boxes. As we first demonstrated, go again there. So this will be your intermediate station because it allows for some room for error on the legs being up or down. Bend your knees. Good. And this is going to be your beginner version of it. Keep your knees entirely bent. And this is really beginner, right? So now she's got her legs bent out here. Her feet are, in fact, off the floor. And what she's going to do from here is rather than try to extend, start here. This is where you're going to start. Rather than extend both legs out, try extending one. All right, so there's a gradual progression into getting to an L-sit. Just get one out there, hold that, and only when you're extremely comfortable holding one leg out there while the other one is fully bent can you really consider extending or trying to extend the second leg. Let's go now, 2 legs. This will be the intermediate. And then again, the advanced is going to be taking it off the floor. Stop, Mer. All right, so there's your L-sit. Now, L-sits typically work for time. And that time is something that should be indicated to you by your coach or by the exercise prescription of the day that you're following. That being said, the L-sit is extremely advanced midline stabilization exercise, but incredibly functional, incredibly useful for helping you increase your strength in almost any lift, particularly an overhead lift. All right, there you have it. That's your L-sit.